Is she staying here?
Even on the group, start seeing your little documents, this is what I got. And on my phone too.
That looks like something's happening with your
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on.
so I'll take a look at it. I'm a bit of a computer nerd, so I might be able to fix it.
You might have to do a malware search or something.
Even my phone too, I can understand it.
Anyways,
Stop downloading porn.
what kind of, is that a regular computer or is that like a Chromebook or something
Yeah,
like that?
I don't know.
HP on this side.
Looks like a regular computer.
It looks like a Chromebook.
How much storage do you have in it?
Well, a Chromebook is basically, it's not a regular computer.
Right, it
It's,
doesn't have a hard drive. It's a small hard drive.
right. I bet it's
It's
Chromebook.
got Windows on it.
Well,
Windows 10, I think, is on it.
yeah, I know. I hate Windows 10.
Or 11.
Matter of
Or
fact,
Windows 11?
you can.
You can change that out, right?
Okay, well let's
Living in my world.
no. I wouldn't. You can't really because they make the hardware fit the operating system. I've tried. I took a Windows 8 computer and tried to load Windows 7 on it, and nothing worked. Anyways, so we'll look at that at a break. Okay, I'll look at it at a break. As long as you're logged into the network. Are you logged into the network?
Yeah, here, yeah.
Okay, good.
Hi, Sharon.
Okay, so statutes equals edicts under martial law is the name of this presentation. First of all, I'm not a liar. Well, I meant a lawyer, but actually that's a liar. We had a lawyer here yesterday too, by the way.
No, I can see why he's not here today.
He was interested in the asset protection.
Yeah,
And so, you know, we went through that and, you know, that's it. You should never take my word for anything. You should always do your own research. I provided references to aid you in your research. I don't know everything, and I'm open to any ideas. There's 4 types of people you'll meet in your life. There's the people who try to wake up the slaves. There's the slave masters. There's the people who have no idea they're slaves. And there's the people who like being slaves. Which one are you? If you can see through the illusion, then you are the solution. If the people do not know their basic rights and freedoms, how on earth can they know when or if their rights and freedoms are being infringed? And the one that there's the challenge jurisdiction, it's actually built a case, there's some stuff that's going on in Texas, and I'll bet you similar things are going on elsewhere, like they're doing fake indictments and all sorts of stuff. And so once you recognize that, at least we can put that stuff to a stop. But they lay awake at night dreaming this stuff up. And so they always deny due process. In Texas, in a criminal matter, they have 60 days from when it starts to when they have to do the trial. No, not 60 days, 180 days, 6 months in a criminal matter. They have 60 days in a traffic matter, and they never follow that. And so, you know, you just bide your time and then go in and get it dismissed for failure to prosecute. I mean, that's easy, you know. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why you can defeat stuff. But anyway, so let's just keep going. Never forget that the men who started this country were marijuana-growing, whiskey-drinking, tax-evading rebels who left their beds at night to shoot at the pigs. If tyranny needs to gain a foothold, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. Like a fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. And it's well said, George Washington. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on Steemit. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified when there's a new upload. On Steemit, don't forget to vote and make your comments. And there's my channel. There's the subscribe button's been clicked because it's not red. The bell has not been clicked, which the arrow is pointing at. And once the bell is clicked, a pop-up will come up sometimes asking you if you want to, have to check a box and click OK. Anyways, so the Libra Code, this is the instructions for the government of the armies of the United States in the field. Understand that the Libra Code was not passed by Congress, okay? And there's actually an impersonating public servants act, or a statute in Texas. It's a felony. It's like a class 3 felony. And it says in there that that includes people who are masquerading as judges, and then it says that they cannot be a judge. It cannot be a judge where there's some statute or law that's authorized under the statutes or laws of the United States or Texas. Well, under the Libra Code, Libra Code is not a statute, and it's not a law. So then all these judges in Texas fall into that impersonating public servants felony. Anyways, so that's what next thing I was going to start throwing into my stuff. I haven't done it yet, but it's something I thought about recently. A place, district, or country occupied by an enemy stands in consequence of the occupation under the martial law, the invading or occupying army, whether any proclamation declaring martial law or any public warning to the inhabitants has been issued or not. Martial law is the immediate and direct effect and consequence of the occupation or conquest. The presence of a hostile army proclaims its martial law. That's Article 1 of the Libra Code. Now, we know all the southern states are under a military occupation. There's all the states involved with the Treaty of Hidalgo, Spanish-American War, are under a military occupation. And actually, there's other reasons why, like states like New Jersey are under a military occupation. Martial law does not cease during the hostile occupation except by special proclamation ordered by the Commander-in-Chief or by special mention in the Treaty of Peace concluding the war. And so, that's Article 2. So, there's been no I haven't seen a peace treaty yet that said anything about the martial law ending, and I haven't, there's been no proclamations for sure by the President of the United States, who's the Commander-in-Chief. Now, this would actually apply. I mean, why do you think they had World War II and World War I? It was basically to impose martial law on all of Europe. You know, think about it. And how many countries in Africa and Asia are under martial law? This whole planet, just about, is under martial law. The only countries, and I think that when you watch what happened, like with Russia, you know, when the Soviet Union broke up in Russia, remember what happened is there was some incident where they went and besieged their White House, right? Remember when Boris Yeltsin was in the White House and there was some insurrection, they besieged the White House. You know, I'll bet you what that was basically where they're overthrowing the de facto corporation. They're getting rid of the martial law because, you know, when I went to Russia, you know, their passports were red. In Ukraine, they were red. They were the stamps that they put in my passport were in red ink. Okay, that means it's de jure. And so I think that's how they in Russia. The Russians are pretty smart. I'll tell you, they're smart people, and so I think that's what they did.
Was that
Anyways.
recently? Recently?
Well, that was back in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. Martial law in a hostile country consists of suspension by the occupying military authority of criminal and civil law and of domestic administration of the government in the occupied place or territory, and in the substitution of military rule and force for the same, as well as the dictation of general laws, okay? So, dictation as in dictatorship, okay? And as far as military necessity requires the suspension, substitution, and dictation. And so, the commander of the forces may proclaim that the administration of all civil and penal law shall continue either wholly or in part as in times of peace, unless otherwise ordered by the military authority. So, they don't want people figuring out that they're under martial law. Now, this is actually taken from the non-ratification of the 14th Amendment by Judge H. Ellett of the Utah Supreme Court. And this is talking about Article 3, which is what we just read, right? That's Article 3 of the Libra Code. It says, note, under law martial, only the criminal jurisdiction of a military court is the recognized law. But as Article 3 says, the civil courts can continue wholly or in part as long as the civil jurisdiction does not violate the military orders laid down by the Commander-in-Chief or one of his commanders. By this means, a military venue, jurisdiction, and authority are imposed upon the occupied populace under the disguise of the ordinary civil courts and officers of the occupied district or region. Because the so-called civil authorities in an occupied district or region only act at the pleasure of a military authority. It should also be noted here that the several state legislatures, county boards of commissioners, and city councils are constantly legislating to please the edicts of the federal government. Edicts as in dictation or dictatorship, right? Edicts. The occupying force. And that their legislation in this sense is not an exercise of state sovereignty, but instead a compliance with edicts of the military force which occupies the several states and consequently are edicts of martial law. So, think about it. That means all statutes, all codes, all rules, everything that is under the current military occupation, that's all edicts under martial law. Everything is. Statute equals edict under martial law. Regulation equals edict under martial law. Code equals edict under martial law. Rule equals edict under martial law. Constitution equals edict under martial law. The occupying force has told states about what they want, what they're allowed to have in their constitution. Even you see what I'm saying? Constitutional amendment. As in 14th Amendment, 13th Amendment, 15th Amendment, okay?
Well, the Constitution is suspended while that's going on.
Well, that's true. Yeah, and it's still suspended. The original Constitution, that's why the original Article 13 Amendment, magically disappeared, right?
Long ago.
It's all part of the illusion. They want their bar members to be able to infiltrate. And so, this is Article 44 of the Libra Code. All wanton violence committed against any persons in the invaded country, all destruction of property not commanded by the authorized officer, all robbery, all pillage or sacking, even after taking a place by main force, all rape, wounding, maiming, or killing of such inhabitants are prohibited under the penalty of death, or such other severe punishment as may seem adequate for the gravity of the offense. A soldier, officer, or private in the act of committing such violence and disobeying a superior ordering him to abstain from it may be lawfully killed on the spot by such superior. So, again, it's martial law. And so, this is where they get the good faith, okay? So they can sit there and you look at all the states, and you'll find stuff in there that says that they can do stuff as long as it's in good faith. This is Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 38.23. No evidence, but this first paragraph sounds great. No evidence obtained by an officer or other person in violation of any provisions of the constitutional laws of the state of Texas or the constitutional laws of the United States shall be admitted into evidence against the accused on the trial of any criminal case. And it is an exception to the provisions of subsection A of this article that the evidence was obtained by a law enforcement officer acting in objective good faith reliance upon a warrant issued by a neutral magistrate based on probable cause. Okay? Well, there's no such thing as a neutral magistrate, and there's no such thing as a warrant. And so again, this is think about it. This is Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Well, that's an edict under martial law. That's a regulation. See what I'm saying? Another edict under martial law. This is 18 U.S.C. 2707, civil action. Another thing that talks about good faith. Defense, a good faith reliance on a court warrant or order, a grand jury subpoena, legislative authorization, or a statutory authorization, including a request of a governmental entity under Section 2703F of this title, a request of an investigative or law enforcement officer under Section 2518.7 of this title, or a good faith determination that Section 2511.3 of this title permitted the conduct complained of as a complete defense to any civil or criminal action brought under this chapter or any other law. So that basically, good faith gets them off the hook. And that's why I serve them with the notice and demand. Okay? You got to take away their good faith. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administrating Your Public Servants. For a complete set of YouTube videos with private information shares, a DVD with over 50 searchable law dictionaries, and other books and forms, contact me privately at engineerwin@yahoo.com. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the IOUs, the Federal Reserve notes, the PayPal gifts, the checks, the money orders. Send me an email for particulars. Now, there's other stuff in the Libra Code that talk about necessity, and I'm not sure if I'm going to go through it here, that's where it comes under in New Jersey. Okay, And so, anyways, all statutes, codes, rules, regulations, and constitutions are edicts under martial law. Every constitutional amendment after 1861 is an edict under martial law. Military necessity equals martial law. And this is, all Civil War states are under military occupation. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky. All the states in the territory conquered by the war in the war with Mexico are under military occupation. Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada. And dictation equals dictatorship, military dictatorship. And law enforcement is enforcing the martial law. That's what they're doing. That's why they're called law enforcement. When the southern states walked out of Congress in 1861, they ceased to have a quorum. Under executive authority, Lincoln ordered Congress to reconvene. When the Supreme Court ruled against something Lincoln did, he ordered troops to the Supreme Court. And even in their rules, it says Rule 45, all process of this court issues in the name of the President of the United States. So they don't do anything. When Obama, remember that the so-called Obamacare, right? And the courts were coming out railing against Obama and his Obamacare. And Obama started coming out railing against the courts, and the next thing you know, the courts just fell right into line. And Roberts, remember, he was the one that everybody figured would vote against it. He voted for it.
It's a quorum.
Yeah. What's a quorum? I'm not sure how many are required to constitute a quorum, but there's rules. If you read the rules of procedure, there's a certain number that they require for a quorum. Well, more than that for Congress. They'd have to be present to be able to conduct business. You see what I'm saying?
And they're still empty, those chairs, right?
No,
still
they're
empty, right?
that's all under martial law. I mean, so what you have is two national governments. We're going into that right now. All statutes, state or federal, passed prior to 1861 are lawful de jure statutes. All statutes, state or federal, passed after 1861 are martial law edicts. Two national governments exist, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independent of that instrument. And in 1871, Congress set up a corporation to operate as the government of the District of Columbia, and that's what's operating, yes.
I was watching this guy talk on YouTube, and he was arguing with a judge in court. I forget what it was about. Maybe something with traffic or something, and he cited something that was from like mid-1800s, 1850s, and the judge told him, "I'm not gonna." He basically said that that's too old. That law's too old, and it's no good. Now, is that why? Because of 1861.
Right, it's under martial law.
Is that why? Is that why he didn't accept
so
that?
So it doesn't, no, he's basically saying it doesn't apply in here, because that gold French flag over there says that we're under martial law in here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, alright.
It's an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Stat 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session June 5, 1933, joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental offices, officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. And that's U.S. Congressional Record, March 17, 1993. And on that same day, notice, March 9, 1933, since March 9, 1933, the United States has been in a state of declared national emergency. Under the powers delegated by these statutes, the President may seize property, organize and control the means of production, seize commodities, assign military forces abroad, institute martial law, seize and control all transportation and communication, regulate the operation of private enterprise, restrict travel, and in a plethora of particular ways control the lives of all American citizens. A majority of the people of the United States have lived all their lives under emergency rule, that's martial law, For 40 years, freedoms and governmental procedures guaranteed by the Constitution have in varying degrees been abridged by laws brought into force by states of national emergency. And that's U.S. Senate Report number 93-549, dated November 19, 1973. And it hasn't changed. Pentagon Inc., Google, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, masquerading as private companies. Any corporation is set up as a franchise of the government. That's why it's called a corporation. It is incorporated into the government. This court declared in the slaughterhouse cases that the 14th Amendment as well as the 13th and 15th were adopted to protect the Negroes in their freedom. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were designed mainly for the protection of the newly emancipated Negroes. It's all martial law. That's what they're talking about here. After the adoption of the 14th Amendment, a bill which became the first Civil Rights Act was introduced in the 39th Congress, the major purpose of which was to secure to the recently freed Negroes all the civil rights secured to white men. None other than citizens of the United States were within the provisions of the Act. So when you claim anything under that Act, you're saying that you're a U.S. citizen, right? The dissenting opinion asserts that the 14th Amendment is a part of the Constitution of the United States. While that same assertion has been made by the United States Supreme Court, that court has never held that the amendment was legally adopted. I cannot believe that any court in full possession of its faculties could honestly hold that the amendment was properly approved and adopted. It's a martial law amendment. It's what happened. I don't know how many remember, but the southern states, they all ratified the 13th Amendment. But, well, all the states ratified the 13th Amendment, but the southern states refused to ratify the 14th Amendment. And so what happened was the military governors, on behalf of the southern states, ratified it. So it wasn't properly approved. It's supposed to be by the legislatures and by the people. And it didn't happen. Everything done after 1861 was done under the martial law. All statutes, constitutions, codes, rules, regulations, and amendments for the unconstitutional corporation that was set up in 1871. They're all for that unconstitutional corporation. Again, two national governments exist. One to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. And that's the U.S. Supreme Court. Martial law falls under the law of nations. This will work for any country on the planet because it falls under the law of nations. Find any national emergency, including a bankruptcy, and you'll have proof that your country is operating under martial law. Martial law extends to the property and to the persons, whether they are subjects of the enemy or aliens to that government. So remember, you've got to be a subject or an alien. Subjects or aliens and nobody else. Does not affect we the people. Why would anyone want to be a low-life scumbag U.S. citizen? If a military police officer is talking to you, then you are a subject. You are the enemy. And you have to realize that. All subjects over which the sovereign power of the state extends are objects of taxation. But those over which it does not extend are exempt from taxation. This proposition may also be pronounced as self-evident. It's obvious. The sovereignty of the state extends to everything which exists by its authority or its permission. And that's U.S. Supreme Court, McCulloch versus Maryland, 1819. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the other property belonging to the United States. So regulations are for property. Regulations are for the slaves. Section 2, definitions, and this is the Canadian Ownership and Control Determination Act, right? Owned means subject to the regulations. If you're subject to regulations, you're owned. You're property. So there's two political jurisdictions. Every tree, living things, people, animal, plants, heaven, earth, the universe, lawful and natural. Tree in the midst of the garden is Lucifer's jurisdiction, fictional things, persons and corporations, domicile, legal and political. So there's two political jurisdictions. The The term resident and citizen of the United States is distinguished from a citizen of one of the several states in that the former is a special class of citizen created by Congress. The term citizen of the United States is analogous to the term subject in the common law. Civil rights under the 14th Amendment are for federal citizens, not state citizens. Federal citizens, as parents, have no right to the custody of their infant children except subject to the paramount right of the state. So, people that have their children stolen, there's a presumption that they're one of the slaves. So, again, how do you prevent that? You prevent that by taking away their good faith. Now, that's not to say you won't get your children back, because you can get them back, but that's the argument, is that I'm not a U.S. citizen, and it's genocide is what it is. And I'll cover that in, it might be in this one, or it'll certainly, we'll go over that, easy enough to do. It is evident that they, U.S. citizens, have not the political rights which are vested in citizens of the states. They're not constituents of any community which is vested in any sovereign power of government. Their position partakes more of the character of subjects than of citizens. They are subject to the laws of the United States but have no voice in its management. If they are allowed to make laws, the validity of these laws is derived from the sanction of a government in which they are not represented. Mere citizenship they may have, but the political rights of citizens they cannot enjoy. And that's a California case. Article 10 of the Libre Code. Martial law affects chiefly the police and the collection of public revenue and taxes, whether imposed by the expelled government or by the invader, and refers mainly to the support and efficiency of the Army, its safety, and the safety of its operations. Now you know why they'll always want you to be safe, right? And again, all police are military police, and you notice how taxes are, it's martial law. You know, they just take it. They don't have to give you due process when it comes to taxes. That's why. Again, you have to take away their good faith. Contract. Do you feel like you have no constitutional rights when it comes to income tax? It's because you don't. You volunteered to be a subject, or they are presuming that you did. And many times you do it out of ignorance. All police are military police. The FBI military police, the city military police, I just call them military police. The state military police, the Homeland Security military police, the county military police. Okay, they're all military police. Matter of fact, I just sent a letter to the Texas Attorney General because the Attorney General in the state is the highest law enforcement officer in the state. So that means he is responsible for all of the law enforcement officers under his command. And so I just sent a letter to the Attorney General, and I said, it's Ken Paxton. I said, well, Ken Paxton, the private man acting as state attorney with the rank of general. Because that's what he is. He's a military officer.
So that jurisdiction they talk about is not separate, MPs and JAGs, they're not separate than judges and...
It's all military.
Okay.
Now, I have sent letters to the Provost Marshal General in Washington, D.C., and he doesn't respond. But I can tell you that things are changing, at least in the area where I'm at in Texas, because I serve similar letters to the... I file notice and demands to the... and then criminal complaints against the local cities, stuff like that, for traffic and things like that. And because of under Texas codes, and that's where we'll go through that and build a case, because under Texas codes, you know, they shouldn't be messing with you. And because, well, and I'll have to go through that in Texas codes. There's no requirement to register your vehicle, number one. So registration isn't any of their business. And so, and that's where I go with it. And you know, we'll talk about that in the build a case. Now, you have to find similar stuff. And the reason we've got so much stuff like this in Texas is because there's a lot of people that are doing this stuff. In other states, there may not be as many people, so it might be harder to find similar things. But you should be able to use some of the stuff, at least in Texas. And some of the stuff I use is just court cases. So you should be able to use those too. in other states. And there's somebody that sent me an email, and it's down there. It talks about probable cause. In other words, they cannot arrest you. Okay, if they arrest you, they have to have probable cause, and probable cause is only in a criminal matter. If it's a civil matter, it doesn't apply. So they cannot arrest you over a civil matter, and if they do, that's false arrest. And so and there's court cases that talk about that, and that would apply here in New Jersey as well. So if they arrest you over a civil matter, like a fine, then that is false arrest. And when you allege false arrest in a lawsuit, then the burden is on them to prove that the arrest was lawful. And so but you got to again use the words they want you to use. You see what I'm saying? Anyways, they're nothing but bail priests.
It would be a good idea then to, on the side of the road, kind of tell them too, because then you'll take away their good faith also, right? Because they'll try to fall back on good faith anyway.
Yeah, but how are you going to prove it?
Well, if you have a recording of
If they have a body cam and you get their body cam, then
what about your
again,
own recording?
And they might cut out so many minutes like they did with
and I've had them refuse to give me the body cam, but they sent me a letter. What I do, and that's in the bill of case, I go and do a public information request, and ask for all their evidence, right? And so they'll either give me the evidence or they give me a reason why they can't give it to me. And so they're claiming in one case that the reason they're not giving me the body cam is because there's a pending criminal matter. Well, it's not a criminal matter, it's a civil matter, and so they're in breach of trust by making that statement as proof that they intend to make a civil matter into a criminal matter. They intend to, in Texas, it says that a Class C misdemeanor, they may not issue a warrant, and that's what they do. And in Texas, a crime is defined as something that requires jail or is a felony. Okay, a misdemeanor that requires jail or is a felony. And so then a speeding ticket, it says in there specifically that they may not arrest you, they may not put you in jail. All they can do is fine you. And even if you fail to pay the fine, all they can do is fine you again. You see what I'm saying? And it says specifically they may not issue a warrant. So they're in, and then in Texas there's also a statute that talks about official oppression, right? That's a felony. And so that's exactly what they're doing. So again, you're going to have to find similar stuff in your state and start filing actions and stuff like that. And if there isn't stuff like that, then stuff like that will start showing up. You see what I'm saying?
Hey,
Anyways,
a public records request, does that have to be a form, or can you just write a letter and send it to whoever you want the information from?
you know, I don't know. Usually they have a website, and usually the form is downloadable.
Okay.
And once you get in touch with, and I go to the city police. I'll go down there and I'll talk to their records department, and they're actually pretty helpful. They've been very helpful. And so then once we start, I tell them you can go ahead and send it to me by email, and here's my email address. So then when they send me email, I start saying, well, what about this and what about that? And so then they're responding, and there's a dialogue, and it's giving me all sorts of great evidence. You see what I'm saying? And so I have proof of everything. And so
They're fun. Public records requests are fun, and they only have so many days in our state to respond to you, or they could be charged with so much money.
So then should I go to the court clerk and ask them?
No, I'll go ahead and Google the public records request.
I tried. I
number.
couldn't.
You got to be careful.
you go to the
Jersey,
police department.
The police department, right?
Yeah.
Well,
In New Jersey.
whoever's involved,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
department is involved.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, here's the hurdle you got to get over. They have overshot FOIA, and they have it's called something else.
But there's sunshine laws in New Jersey,
I
though.
know, but they say this is what I've been told. They wouldn't answer my FOIA request. They said I had to put in whatever. They changed it to another name.
FOIA is more federal. But
So-
they'll have what he just said. It's a public
Whatever you do-
records disclosure.
Oh.
or something
Whatever you
like
do,
that.
get it in writing.
No.
Okay, that's part of building a case. Whatever you do,
Right.
get it in writing, because then you're building a case. Okay, and that's all evidence. Anyways, all police are military police, and if they're talking to you, then you are a subject and you are the enemy. And we need to start treating it that way. There's the real domestic terrorists right there. That's the Homeland Security Military Police.
Looks like the bad guy in
Yeah.
Bruce Willis movie or something,
Those are the
you know?
sovereign citizens, the real sovereign citizens. Did you see a video that this guy that's been doing videos for like 20 years, the cops pull him over, and then they say, pull over in the next intersection. You ever see that video?
No.
So maybe I'll share it, remind me to share it. So anyway, they're giving him a hard time, they're giving him a ticket, whatever, and the cop goes to him, are you a sovereign citizen? And he goes, what is that? What's the definition of that? Or something like that. And the cop goes, well, somebody that believes the law don't apply to them, and you know, and he goes, well, that's you guys. You're the sovereign citizens. You believe you above the law, right? And so he called for backup when this was going on. So the good cop shows up on the scene, the bad cop's writing a ticket, the good cop's talking to the guy, and he's filming the whole thing. And the bad cop shows up, here's your ticket, he tries to engage him, he just walks away. And the other guy's talking to him and he's saying, you know, there's that, right? And then he goes, get the fuck out of here, get out of here, go fuck your mother, get the, you friggin' sovereign citizen. And the cop eventually just laughed.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He beat him down pretty bad, man. He was aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was.
Well, what are they going to do? They
You're
gave
a
a
sovereign
ticket.
citizen.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What are you going to do? You know, you did the damage that you're going to do, so now go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what, you know.
But
Anyways,
the great thing was that he turned it around and he said, you guys are the ones that believe you're above
Yeah.
the law. You're
Yeah.
the one that don't think the
Yeah.
law applies to you.
Yeah.
And it's true.
well, and sometimes what'll happen is I'll be trying to explain the law to the guy, and he'll be interrupting me and stuff like that. And so then and he'll say, tell it to the judge, and I'll say, yeah, you know, they don't even teach you guys to read, do they? You know.
You know, my brother-in-law's brother-in-law, he was a history teacher at a high school. And when they passed him over to be the principal of Toms River High School, he went and made the mistake of becoming a cop in Barnegat Township. The nicest man in the world turned into the biggest scumbag. Even his wife hates him now. All because he became a cop.
Wow.
I mean, the man used to go out of his way to talk to me, you know? Very nice guy. Now I see him, you know, the side where he's hat, thinks he's, you know, God's gift to women, you know what I mean? And,
He's a member of the club now.
and he won't talk to you, he won't even acknowledge her in the room. Then I says to him one day, I says to him, man, you became a cop, man, you're a piece of work now. Whoa, what do you mean? I says to him, Brett, you need to realize, you used to be like one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. And now, I don't give two shits if I ever see you.
Yeah.
I says to him,
you're a
and I
scumbag.
says, you know what? And I'm sure everybody else feels the same way. And he
Yeah.
didn't like that too much. But I don't give a shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because just, you
You're
know.
a scumbag. I agree. So you are the enemy. I mean, how many people have you see it almost every night on television where they're murdering somebody? We talked it over, and after investigating ourselves, we decided we're not guilty.
Internal investigation.
Beware violent street gangs. A typical gang member, well organized, gang colors, gang identifier, heavily armed. Do not approach. Gang members are aggressive and notoriously violent. The tyrant, who in order to hold his power suppresses every superiority, does away with good men, forbids education and light, controls every movement of citizens, and keeping them under perpetual servitude, wants them to grow accustomed to baseness and cowardice, has his spies everywhere to listen to what is said in the meetings, and spreads dissension and calumny among the citizens, and impoverishes them, is obliged to make war in order to keep his subjects occupied, and impose upon them a permanent need of a chief. And I would say that is a textbook description of Obama, for sure. And certainly Trump doesn't fall under some of that, or much of that. I think that Trump is trying to change a bunch of that stuff, but so I guess we'll see.
But it's up to us.
Yeah, really, that's the end of the day. It's up to us, you know, and so Trump is only one guy.
I don't understand why he doesn't just come out and say all this stuff,
He
you
can't.
know?
Because
all
no-
the truth, you know? I
Yeah,
don't get
but
it. It
because-
makes me feel like he's just kind of part of the whole rigmarole going on.
It would be
you know?
chaos. You
It's
can't do
it's
it
part
like
of
that.
his politics, quite frankly.
It's a show.
He's got to play the game to some extent. It's like when
right.
they went and attacked Syria. He went and called up the Russians and told them that they were coming, and they attacked an area that didn't matter anyways. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he had to make the Jesuits that he's surrounded with, because he's surrounded by
Yeah.
Jesuits, you
Yeah.
know, by these Satanists. And so he had to do something to appease them, basically. You see what I'm saying?
The opposition is huge, and they're still in pretty much full power.
Right.
And they're able to convince everybody with all the fake media that works for them. And it's very hard to get people to open their eyes. And he's doing it in a way that he decides to do it. And little by little, he's getting there. But
Well,
it's up
and-
to us to wake up.
And the news media is bought and paid for it. I mean,
Yeah,
even
right.
Fox is, I mean, there's certainly
Propaganda.
more.
It's-
There's Hannity and a few people on Fox are helping him out, but not all of them. And
Tucker Carlson's pretty good, you know.
yeah, I love Tucker
Yeah, he's my
Carlson.
favorite
He's
one, you know,
great.
because he's really the only one who will talk about, you know, the Christians being killed all over the place.
Yeah, no
and
joke.
really talk about things that need to be talked about.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just feel like, well, the rest of it's they're just parroting one right off of each other.
He
All
lets
the
them
same
off.
shit,
Too. He
you
lets
know?
people off easy too, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
'Cause he's
well,
still,
again, it's
they'll take him
politics.
off air, right? They'll
Right.
take him off the air.
He's
and he
gotta-
won't have any voice.
He's got to
So-
be careful.
Right.
Anyway, so military, this is Article 13 of the Libra Code. Military jurisdictions of two kinds. First, that which is conferred and defined by statute. Second, that which is derived from the common law of war. Military offenses under the statute law must be tried in the manner therein directed, but military offenses which do not come within the statute must be tried and punished under the common law of war. The character of the courts which exercise these jurisdictions depends upon the local laws of each particular country. In armies of the United States, the first is exercised by court-martial, while cases which do not come within the rules and articles of war or the jurisdiction conferred by statute on court-martial are tried by military commission. So the end result is there's no Article 3 judges. Okay, they're all military commissioners. That's why they wear that military uniform, that black robe, and you'll never see a judge in there with a business suit. If you do, then that would be, I would be wondering if there'd definitely be something happening.
So an article,
So you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And so an Article 3 judge would be like the de jure government?
Right,
Okay.
right.
So
Under Article 3 of the Constitution, right?
Okay.
So there's
That's
Article
what
3
you're
judges.
okay.
All of these military commissioners are Article 1 judges.
Okay.
They're executive, administrative. Go
So
ahead.
you will hear the next couple of days about the judge in the suit and how to get to that part of the private court.
Well,
That's
we'll
what
see.
They'll talk about.
Yeah, with trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, trial, I should say. And so trial is going to talk about some of that stuff, but again, if they're wearing a military uniform, you can do some things. Yeah, I'm very interested in hearing what she has to say. We talked for probably a half an hour last night. It went quite late, and I was getting ready to go to sleep. And but she came over and we visited for a while, and it was quite interesting.
So basically, it's all dead entities, right? As we well know, we just forget.
Yeah.
And the truth will set you free.
Right.
And you're being tested. And if you pass the test, then the door opens and you go into the private.
Yeah, well, and so I don't like to even go in there because it's and actually I found enough stuff that I can just make life miserable for them, and they can basically, I want to just be left alone,
But this is the solution in accessing the benefits that are there for us. Once you pass the test and you're in that environment, now you're in charge.
Right. Yeah, and so I'm definitely interested in hearing what she's got to say. We had a good talk last night, and I like what she was saying for sure. So it definitely gives us a remedy in that system, and so I'm very
She
interested.
ties in a lot of the loose ends of Carl Lentz and Boris and a lot of other people they will learn from.
Right. All statutes are in support of the martial law. All statutes apply to subjects only. There's two kinds of court proceedings, martial law and military commissions. The only Article 3 courts are set up by we the people, the common law courts. When we set up our juror assemblies, those are Article 3 courts. And those are extremely powerful, but they have to be done properly. Where a controversy is such of a character as to require the exercise of the judicial power defined by Article 3, jurisdiction thereof can be conferred only on courts established in virtue of that article. and Congress is without power to vest that judicial power in any other judicial tribunal, or of course in an executive officer or administrative or executive board, since they are incapable of receiving it. So, again, these are not Article 3 courts. They're military commissioners. It is noted as significant that the Act constituting the court dispenses with trial by jury, a provision which is distinctly upheld in spite of the 7th Amendment. With respect to the status of the court, the opinion concludes a duty to give decisions which are advisory only, and so without force of judicial judgments, may be laid on a legislative court, but not on a constitutional court established under Article 3. That's why they sit there and they say, it's an advisory decision, it's my opinion. Okay, well everybody's, opinions are like assholes, everybody's got one, right? And so they sit there and they say, well in this case this is what happened, in this case this is what happened. They're military commissioners, that's all they are. And so the next lawsuit I file, I'm going to basically tell the judge that he's a bought and paid for clerk masquerading as a judge. He's not an Article 3 judge. I'm going to kind of rail on him, quite frankly. Go ahead, dismiss it. I want to get to the Supreme Court so I can rail on them anyways. That kind of thing.
But that's the courts that we have. We don't belong there. That's the point.
Well, I agree, but there's nothing else available.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna, and it's gonna be over some of these traffic matters, the false arrest and that kind of stuff that pigs are doing. And so I'm gonna make life. I'll bring heat down on him, and then what'll happen is either A, he'll start bringing some heat down on these pigs, or something will happen, guaranteed. Or I'll go to the Supreme Court.
You might get on a list where they just say, leave them alone.
Well,
I think I may be
theoretically,
on
I
that
was supposed
list
to be
now.
on one of those already, but it doesn't always happen. You know what I mean? Because the grand jury is an institution separate from courts over whose functioning the courts do not preside, we think it clear that, as a general matter at least, no such supervisory judicial authority exists. Rooted in long centuries of Anglo-American history, the grand jury is mentioned in the Bill of Rights, but not in the body of the Constitution. It has been textually assigned, therefore, to any of the branches described in the first 3 articles. It is a constitutional fixture in its own right. And this is actually, what's his name? That judge that died mysteriously in Texas, the Supreme Court. Scalia, yeah, he's the one that actually wrote this decision. In fact, the whole theory of its function is that it belongs to no branch of the institutional government, serving as a kind of buffer or referee between the government and the people. I've heard of people, like in a traffic case, they get 26 people to go in and witness a traffic case, and the judge will get up and leave. Because it's a grand jury. They could indict his buddy. See what I'm saying? Hand down an indictment, a true bill. Recognizing this tradition of independence, we've said that the Fifth Amendment's constitutional guarantee presupposes an investigative body acting independently of either prosecuting attorney or judge. So grand jury is like extremely powerful, and that's where we need to get together with our neighbors and anybody that's of a like mind and start convening our grand juries. And there's a Jural Assembly conference call that you can participate. There's a national Jural Assembly that's all over the U.S., and there's also one in Texas. Where, people here probably wouldn't be interested in the one in Texas, but there's certainly there's people. I'm involved in a Jural Assembly in Texas, and so we all need to participate in this and start bringing justice for ourselves and for other people. It's how are we going to look on Judgment Day if we could have brought justice to someone and we didn't, because we're too busy or something. See what I'm saying? That's not going to look good. Legislative courts are not judicial. Legislative courts are not Article 3 courts. Legislative courts give advisory decisions only that do not have the force of law. Executive, administrative, executive board, or legislative courts are incapable of receiving authority to be an Article 3 court. Only an Article 3 court has the force of law. Judge works for the state, prosecutor works for the state, police or witness works for the state. The vast majority of the disputes that the police initiate on behalf of their employer are also adjudicated by their employer, where the plaintiff, the judge, the antagonist, the police, and the only witness, also the police, all represent the same party. And since no corpus delicti, mens rea, or acts reus can be produced, doesn't technically qualify to be heard according to its own laws. The state, therefore, is indistinguishable from a criminal cartel. And that's exactly the truth. They're nothing but a bunch of thieves and pirates. Oh, there's a kangaroo court there. Look at that. We can't even begin to count the number of times judges, lawyers, and statesmen have said there isn't any common law anymore. It's been replaced by statutes. They would be more truthful if they said there isn't any common law anymore. It's been replaced by martial law. And that's that Judge A.H. Elliott of the Utah Supreme Court again.
The common law is still there.
It is, but it's completely separate. And that's, again, it's because we the people are dumbed down and we're not convening our own common law juries and grand juries. And that's all we have to do. You know, really. That's all we have to do is start convening our own common law juries and grand juries, and we can put a stop to all of this stuff. Martial law supersedes and replaces common law, and that's in that system for subjects. Statutes have been passed extending the courts of admiralty and vice-admiralty far beyond their ancient limits for depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, to supersede the course of common law and instead thereof publish and order the use and exercise of the law martial, and for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter. We saw the misery to which such despotism would reduce us, dictatorship. And that's taken from the causes and necessities for taking up arms in 1775. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Convene them like how? Like every time there's a problem, to convene a grand jury or
Whatever, yeah. Or a general assembly and file a lawsuit with your common law jury, absolutely.
and file a lawsuit
Build
against
a case.
the town.
Whoever, that's right.
Whatever's
Or
necessary.
if it's, again, it depends on what kind of issue it is.
Because every
If
time I
it's-
hear you say that, I just don't know exactly what you mean with, you know what I mean, on all your videos.
You got to network with people.
Okay.
And you can't just have a jury by yourself. A
Right.
jury is 12 people.
It's
For-
supposed to be people that you know, like your neighbor or
Well, not
somebody you work
necessarily.
with.
It doesn't necessarily have to be people that you know, but it's got to be people that want to participate in that for sure. You see what I'm saying? And so there's General Assembly conference calls. I would say participate on them, and there's probably people that are in New Jersey that are on those conference calls that want to do the same thing.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And
I
so.
wanted.
So you got to network with people and start setting up and start bringing indictments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And an indictment, all it is probable cause. An indictment is saying that these 26 people said there's probable cause that a crime was committed here. That's all it says. You
And-
still have to put them on trial.
And then
But
let's file that down at the police station with the with the clerk. Or
I would.
county.
I'm not sure where to file it. Once the court has it, once you have it, then you could probably file it with the court, or I would file it with the county recorder if they'll take it. If somewhere file it a bill of indictment, they should take it. You'd think the county recorder would take it.
Okay.
But there's you could also send it to the U.S. attorney. Say prosecute this matter. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Okay.
And that's what I would do. Is send it to the U.S. attorney or the district attorney and demand that they prosecute this matter.
And you think they would just blow it off though, or no?
Well, you got to give them that opportunity to honor their oath.
So
you know?
the first thing is actually get
the assembly.
like-minded people like you,
Right.
right? And then you start networking, learning, and all that. Then you have some backing. Then you move to the next step.
But don't
You're
you
worried about how to.
25.
But you-
grand?
Well,
you have
because when you
26.
assemble these people, I kind of need to know like what I'm talking about, because I can't just start teaching people this stuff and be like, oh, and by the way, I want to assemble 26 of us, and they're say, assemble us for what? And
Well,
then
there's more people like I know on the group. There's more people from New Jersey and stuff like that. So I would like to get involved with it. Whether we're all close enough together, I don't know if we have to meet in person.
Something.
You know, like
Well, and there's people that do it on conference calls too. But one thing that you have to understand is that you don't want U.S. citizens.
Right.
Okay? People that are U.S. citizens are
I mean,
They want to be slaves.
Yeah, I know.
You don't want slaves on your grand jury.
So does it have to be everybody that has corrected their status already?
Not
or?
necessarily, but at least they understand it to the
Okay,
point that they
right.
know that
Okay.
they're not one of the slaves.
All
The
right.
right mindset.
Okay.
That's right.
So then what are we if we're not, what do we call ourselves? I know there was a big debate.
State citizen.
State
There's
citizen.
two classes of citizens. You can be a citizen of a state without being a citizen of the United States. That's in my videos.
And I heard the story of a guy who
There's several,
actually,
lots of videos that talk about that.
I forget which state it
For
was
sure.
in, I think it was up north somewhere, where they tried to bring him in for a trial, and he said, and when they were doing the jury selection, he said, well, this isn't a jury of my peers. And they said, what do you mean? He said, are you a U.S. citizen? Yes. I'm not.
Well,
He said he was a state citizen, and they couldn't bring a jury against
well,
him.
there's
Really?
there's also a federal court case that says that government employees are not qualified to sit on a jury.
Okay.
U.S.
And-
citizens are all government.
And
Right.
Yeah.
and if you look in Title 5, United States Code, Section 552A13, I may show it in here. It says that anybody with a Social Security number is a government employee. So that's the question.
Right.
Do you have a Social Security number?
Right.
If he says yes, then he's
Well,
one of the slaves. He's out of here.
See, because I always thought a jury of your peers really meant like people you know, like someone that
No.
you work with, somebody in your neighborhood,
Not
your
necessarily.
neighbor,
Not
somebody who
necessarily.
could judge your
Well, in
character.
the old days,
You know?
it was like that.
Okay.
But now you can't go by that.
You
because
can't-
It was someone
Most of the
saw
people
Not
you know
necessarily.
are
If
US
they,
citizens.
as long as they understand the law to the point that they know they're not a government employee and they don't have a Social Security number and they're not a U.S. citizen, then
They're on the right track.
Then they're on the right track. There's somebody you want on that jury for
Right.
sure. You see what I'm saying?
There is a Massachusetts judge in the news for being indicted last week for blocking ICE. They're using the courtrooms in Massachusetts to scout people from, you know what I mean? So they try to catch a Dominican guy. I don't know the whole story.
Oh, really? Immigrants.
She was
Something
hiding.
like
She
that,
was
yeah.
hiding him from
She
ICE.
blocked him and let him out the back door, so she got indicted.
Indicted, yeah.
And
Wow.
now there's a lawsuit against ICE from coming to the courtrooms and scouting, fresh meat.
Wow.
You're
Yeah.
kidding me.
No shit.
Yeah, that's not. I'm not sure that that's
I
appropriate.
walked out of that
Either
court.
one of those things.
Yeah,
Either
right.
one of those things
Right.
shouldn't be
But
happening.
I mean, yeah, for the judge to be doing that though in the first place. It's,
Oh, I agree. The judge shouldn't be doing it, but ICE shouldn't be
there
coming into
either.
courtrooms looking for
What-
people that might be
what-
illegals either.
What did you say yesterday? I thought we're a nation of laws, right? Isn't that what you're talking about?
Well, that's true.
What these judges
That's
say, that's
Oh, I agree.
ridiculous, you
I
know?
agree. The judge shouldn't be doing that stuff. You got to understand that, and this is one of my videos. I did a video that was when Trump was being elected, and I said Trump is right. Okay, they have to stop at the border because once you're on American soil, you're a state citizen, and so then you have all the protections of the Constitution.
And that's why I try telling people. That's why the illegals get more rights
That's
than
right.
the citizens.
That's
And
right.
they
They
don't
have no
understand
contract.
this.
They're
That's
not
right.
right. They have no
There's no
contract yet.
They
contract.
don't
Right.
understand what I'm telling them. I'm
And-
like, yeah, if you're a citizen, you have no rights. That's why the illegals, they get everything in the state of New Jersey.
And
Yeah.
the reason,
Because they have all the rights.
and the
of
reason
the
why
king.
the reason why they're letting him in is because it's more contracts that they can do. That's why they want to
Well,
legalize them. More
and
contracts.
That's right. It's all about revenue,
Yep.
and so then they can generate more revenue, or at least they can. What they do is they what do they call it? They hypothecate it. They create a debt based on all of this alleged revenue that they're
Yeah.
going to make. You see what I'm saying? So for every Social Security number that these people, when they get into the system, then every Social Security number they can get more debt based on that. That's exactly
Sell
what
that.
they're doing. Anyways, keep going here.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. There are no common law offenses against the United States, only those acts which Congress has forbidden and with penalties for disobedience of its command or crimes. And then under Texas law, no act or omission is a crime unless made so by statute. Under martial law, there's no law. Martial law is no law. That's why they have to make common law offenses statutes. In other words, murder. They got to make a statute against murder. Otherwise, murder is perfectly legal under martial law. And the legislature may create an offense and in the same enactment provide exceptions to its application. Arizona, at common law, offenses and affirmative defenses are abolished. Arizona revised statutes. NSA takes care of the spying, and this is one thing that I tell people, and some people have trouble getting it. I used to work at U.S. Airways, okay? And U.S. Airways has an air agency certificate, okay, from the Department of Transportation. And so think about that. U.S. Airways is an agency of the Department of Transportation. I saw the certificate. So any agency, I don't care what kind of, if it's an agency, it's a private corporation. It's owned by somebody. It's not owned by the government. Yes, the government might be able to appoint some of the officials in there, just like the Federal Reserve. Trump appoints some of the board of the governors, but he doesn't appoint them all. And the NSA, yes, they appoint whoever the director is, but that's it. And the Central Intelligence Agency, okay, that's a private company. And I've heard that their head office is in Switzerland. Yes, their U.S. head office is in Langley, Virginia, but their real head office is in Switzerland.
Is that the UPU?
And so, no. So the point being is that, so the CIA can easily be doing all of these false flag operations without Langley even knowing about it.
There's
And
different
they could
factions and rogue factions.
They
in
could
there.
be operating, and I think that the CIA is owned by the Roman cult.
Yeah.
I'll bet you it is.
Yeah. 'Cause
And I'll bet you,
Jesuits, they're all Jesuits in there too.
yeah, I'll bet you the NSA is owned by the Roman cult too. But I don't know. But Homeland Security is a subsidiary of the Secret Service. I don't know, it says it right in their paperwork. I've got that in my YouTube videos. Homeland Security is a subsidiary of the Secret Service. The Secret Service actually operates in England too. Did you know that the Prime Minister of England is protected by the Secret Service? Yes. So
Now aren't they part of the Treasury though too? They're a subsidiary of the
well, that's
Treasury.
true. Yeah.
And then the Treasury is a subsidiary of the IRS.
No,
No, the other
no.
way.
The Secret Service is a subsidiary of the Treasury, but the Treasury in 1945 was eliminated. Okay, the U.S. Treasury.
Okay.
Okay, the Treasury Department I think is the International Monetary Fund.
Yeah. No, that yeah, definitely is.
Yeah.
Because your Social Security checks.
So
will
the
say all that
UN.
stuff on
That's
it,
right. Yeah, it's all coming from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. It's all UN. So if you're one of the slaves, you know, people that have gone and volunteered for this have volunteered to be one of the slaves. It's all under corporate law. And remember yesterday we talked about where that Dick Allgaier was talking about. Remember what he talked about, where he was talking about this, how Bitcoin is going to come in and how corporations are going to be running everything. The banks are going to be gone. The governments are going to be gone. And then he talked about the parent corporation, and he didn't want to talk about that then. Well, that's the UN, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so you know, and I say it in my videos that people say the UN is going to invade. Well, hello, they're already here.
They already took over that part of
They've
New York.
been here for decades.
And we found the ones that are funding it.
Well, and so all taxes go to the UN. IRS is just an agency of the International Monetary Fund. That's all taxes go to the UN. FBI takes care of the terror attacks and false flags. Homeland Security takes care of the rest.
Okay.
The CIA owns every one of any significance in the major media. Why do you think the major media is trumpeting all these lies? That's exactly why. Because they're owned and operated by the CIA. It's exactly what's going on. And they are doing everything they can. So my attitude is anybody that they hate, I love. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody that they hate, I love. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false.
Yeah.
Deception is a state of mind and the mind of the state. There's two national governments. Government officials wear two hats. They can represent the unconstitutional corporation, or they can represent the lawful de jure government. because of our own ignorance. And Mark Passio talks about, he goes to the root word, ignorance.
Yeah, watch that video on natural law.
Yeah,
He's got some
Mark
pretty good
Passio's
stuff.
brilliant.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
Yeah, and you guys
He's
living
long.
around here, you got to go to some of his meetings and stuff. I'm sure that that would be interesting too, if I had the opportunity. If I was around here, I'd certainly go.
Is he from around here?
Well, yeah, he's from Philadelphia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah. Because of our own ignorance, we've given them evidence of their slave. They presume we are their slave until we defeat their presumption. So, again, remember, it's good faith. Under international law of warfare, all parties to a cause must appear by nom de guerre, because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during the war in his own name. A mixed war is one which is made on one side by public authority and the other by mere private persons. It's all warfare. Article 37 of the Libra Code. The United States acknowledge and protect in hostile countries occupied by them religion or morality, strictly private property, the persons of inhabitants, especially those of women, and sacredness of domestic relations. Offenses to the contrary shall be rigorously punished. This rule does not interfere with the right of the victorious invader to tax the people or their property, to levy forced loans. Well, what do you think those Federal Reserve notes you have in your wallet are? Forced loans. You're forced to loan the government money. The forced loans of 1862 and 1863 in the form of legal tender notes were vital forces in the struggle for national supremacy. That's why Trump is trying to get rid of the Federal Reserve, and he's certainly playing the politics in that respect. But the Federal Reserve is coming to the party too. Notice that they're basically doing whatever he wants them to do. And, you know, I think that he's hoping that they'll go and screw things up so that he can blame them for it and create the political will to get rid of them. You see what I'm saying? But they're playing the game. They know he wants to get rid of them, I'll bet you. Federal Reserve notes are military script. Federal Reserve notes are forced loans. They're forcing the enemy, you, to loan the government money. And they're vital forces in the struggle for national supremacy. They are absolutely crucial for this martial law to continue. And so that's why, but they have to provide an alternative. That's why they provide these silver eagles that you can get that nobody wants. Or not very many people want. Because it says on a silver eagle, it has a face value of $1, 1 troy ounce of silver. That is $1 on the Coinage Act of 1792.
Lawful
The
money.
banks
Lawful
carry
money.
those or no?
No. I'd gone into the banks and I'd say, so do you have any? And I pull one out. Do you have any of these? And they say no. And then I say, well, then I guess technically you're bankrupt, aren't you?
It's all debt anyway.
Right.
Well,
Well,
you
you
got
got,
Federal Reserve notes.
well, you got is Federal Reserve notes. You don't have anything. You
They
got
don't even have
IOUs.
that. They don't even keep that
So
in
when
the
you
banks
when you
anymore.
buy your when you get your $1 silver eagles, do you buy them from like one of these silver companies? Because they mark them up, right?
They do. I usually get them on eBay. That's probably the best place. eBay's the real market.
Uh-huh.
But I'm very careful about who I buy them from, because you want to buy them from a credible coin dealer,
Right.
because there's counterfeits.
Right.
But and that's one reason I buy silver eagles too, because if they are counterfeited, the Secret Service invests counterfeit money, and that's counterfeit money, and it's 30 years in jail for anybody that does that stuff. So that's what I would be turning her over. But again, still, I've been ripped off on eBay, and PayPal. Yes, they will cover part of your cost, but not all of it. And so what I do is I buy it from, I want to make sure I get the best deal I can, but I want to make sure that the guy has a really high feedback score, because I can hurt him by negative feedback, and they'll bend over backwards to make you happy. And so all I want some real silver eagles, and I had no trouble at all as long as I follow my rules. I don't buy from anybody for anything for a feedback score that's less than like 400. if it's got to be more than that. There's people that have you can walk away from your profile easy, and so I make sure. But when it comes to Silver Eagles, I want a feedback score of like 10,000, and it's basically a coin dealer. And
You're not talking about a score. You're talking about how many reviews.
yeah, that's the feedback score.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
know.
many.
Well, the score
how
is
many
like
people have-
98% or 99.9%.
Well, that's true, but the feedback score is well, the score I suppose would be 90 whatever percent, but I'm looking for that they've had like
A lot of
100,000 transactions,
Okay.
and they're getting lots of positive feedback.
Okay.
Anyways, governments, any sovereign, descend to the level of a mere private corporation, take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private, corporate, commercial paper, and securities is concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. Why do you think they want you to pay a filing fee? Because now you're one of the slaves. And that's why I don't pay the filing fee, and I don't care. But now I'm going to start throwing in stuff about war crimes. And there's actually somebody sent out on my group a federal statute that says that the district courts have original jurisdiction on all war crimes in foreign countries. And so Texas is foreign to the District of Columbia. That's perfect. You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to say that you're engaged in war crimes too, and these pigs are engaged in war crimes, and I'll just rail on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I missed the part of the final fee you're talking about when you go to court, when you want to.
Yeah, that's filing fee.
Okay, I just missed what you were talking about. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
All statutes are martial law
That's right.
statutes.
Yeah.
All statutes apply to subjects only. The military police often say, you think our laws don't apply to you? The Libra Code says it all. Do they even teach you to read? The last thing they want to talk about is war crimes. War crimes precipitate revolutions. I guarantee you, most of these military police, and I tell them, you guys are military police. And especially in Texas, I can say, well, you know, Texas was invaded by the Union Army in 1865, right? Oh yeah. Well, under the Libra Code, it says the physical presence of the Army, so I just go through all that stuff. See what I'm saying? Of course, then they start interrupting me because, you know, they don't want to hear it.
You're confusing them anyway.
Yeah.
All these facts.
So I have exclusive content available on my website. I have 2 subscription levels, and I accept cryptocurrencies only. $29.99 a year for the videos only. $49.99 a year for the videos plus unlimited consultations. Now, the unlimited consultations have a limit in that I'm not a liar. Well, I meant an attorney. Well, you know, really, that's a liar. But I can tell you what I would do under certain circumstances and where to find forms. So that's where the unlimited consultations come in. The only power that these New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it for all our benefit. But I cannot fight all the battles. And so I need other people fighting the battles and being on point. I'm currently publishing a video a month. Yeah, that's probably about right. It's not too many. Because I've got some new ones that I'm presenting here, but generally speaking, I've covered most of the stuff that you know, needs to be covered. You know, if I come up with a new topic, I don't want to have a video on the same thing, repeat. You know what I mean?
Actually, I like your videos a lot because the way you present it, it's very good for the common guy. But you do say things multiple times, so it like kind of gets put in your head, you know. And I like that. It's actually a good thing, you know, to kind of repeat it.
I try to. There's you know, when I'm talking about, say for example, one topic like this topic, there's a lot of court citations I use in this video that are in other videos. There's no doubt about it, but it's all related to this particular topic about how all statutes are edicts under martial law. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like citations and things like that are applicable to that fact. Anyway, some of my exclusive content is Arlington Private Information Share, which is 9 videos by itself. Land deed training, estoppel certificates training, foreclosure estoppel certificates training, corporate denial training, toll roads notice and demand training, invoice training, notice of void judgment training, revocation of signature training, third-party witness training, and federal habeas corpus training. There's also revocation of voter registration training. There's criminal complaint training, and I've done some of those, and there'll probably be more, because that's kind of like an evolving thing. The lawsuit training, I haven't done any yet, but there probably will be some. But again, they have to be fairly generic, and you have to use their words, you know. There's things that you need to, general things that you need to do with any lawsuit. And then other training requests. People send me requests for training from time to time, and I look at it and decide whether it's something to do. This Northeast Private Information Share, some of these videos are going to be part of my exclusive content, like the one yesterday, where we're talking about trusts and all that stuff. That's going to be in my exclusive content. This one today, it may go up on YouTube. It's hard to say. But so it's going to be, some of them will go up in the exclusive content, and some of them will be, you know, to YouTube. All forms, files, and other instructions available for free in my 2 private group at Yahoo and Google Groups. All exclusive contents available on my website, and you can buy a subscription there. All empires are built the same way. You get 50% of the poor to go to war and kill the other 50% of the poor, leaving the rich to chit-chat in the Senate, which gives the impression that there's real democracy. You absorb the land and riches of your enemies and repeat whenever you need cash or new resources. And, you know, that's describing martial law, okay? Martial law, or democracy, is the result of martial law, okay? That's when martial law happens, and that's a symptom, is when you get democracy. And I've got videos that talk about that, and about some of the acts that Congress passed. You know, when they started, it used to be, when we had a republic, it was only the landowners that could vote, and they didn't have to register to vote. But by being a landowner, they were automatically called, they were electors. Yeah. And so, but now you have to, anybody in this registration, when you have to register, that's a privilege, and so when you register, then that's for the slaves. Slaves only get to vote. War is terrorism on a bigger budget. Democracy, fake laws, false arrest, feel free. This is Article 2 of the Geneva Convention. Okay, so because it's a military occupation, the Geneva Convention, relative to the protection of civilians in a time of war of 1949, applies. And we're going to go through some of that. No contract, agreement, or regulation shall impair the right of any worker, whether voluntary or not, and wherever he may be, to apply to the representatives of the protecting power in order to request the said power's intervention. All measures at creating unemployment or at restricting the opportunities offered to workers in an occupied territory in order to induce them to work for the occupying power are prohibited. So, this is perfect, because no contract or agreement or regulation, okay? Court rules or regulation, and so that's what I'm going to tell them. I don't have to follow your court rules. If you're trying to impose on me your court rules, then you're engaging in a war crime in violation of Article 52 of the Geneva Convention. And so you stick your rules where you're up your rectal orifice. And I'm going to tell the judge to do exactly that. I'll tell you right now. And I'll say that they're also creating unemployment, restricting opportunities, because I haven't been able to get a compensation for a labor contract in 6 years, and you're restricting opportunities because by what they're doing is their unemployment statistics are only taken from people who are government employees, because they track it with Social Security numbers. That's government employees. So they're restricting opportunities by only taking their statistics from government employees when there's a whole bunch of other people that are out of work. And it's well established. So war crimes, this is an edict under martial law. Remember I told you about federal personnel. This is Title 5, United States Code, Section 552AA13. Says, the term federal personnel means, and then the underlying part, individuals entitled to receive immediate or deferred retirement benefits under any retirement program of the government of the United States, including survivor benefits. So that's anybody with a Social Security number is federal personnel. So that's why you go in there. Do you have a social security number? You don't ask them if you're a U.S. citizen. Just ask them, do you have a social security number? I know I don't have one. And so I'm going to say, no, I don't. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Why would I want one of those? I don't work for the government. Anyways, anybody with a social security number is federal personnel. If they compel the disclosure of a social security number, they're compelling you to work for the occupying power. That's a violation of Article 52. All measures aimed at creating unemployment and restricting opportunities offered to workers in an occupied territory in order to induce them to work for the occupying power are prohibited. That's a violation of Article 52. Filing fees are a court regulation. That's an edict under martial law. Court rules are a regulation. That's an edict under martial law. By turning on their emergency lights, they're terrorizing you. That's another war crime. Coercing information from you or a third party is a war crime. When they get information from Facebook about you, that's a war crime. I've actually filed criminal complaints against Google because they're coercing information from me, and that stopped. I'm serious. Okay? And I filed criminal complaints against Facebook too. And now they're facing like $1 billion fine for disclosing information of people that are, you see what I'm saying? When they coerce a date of birth from you, they're compelling you to work for the occupying power, a war crime. When they use their regulations to deny you justice, it's a war crime. That all goes back to Article 52 of the Geneva Convention. This is Article 27 of the Geneva Convention. Protected persons are entitled to, in all circumstances, to respect for their persons, their honor, their family rights, their religious convictions and practices, and their manners and customs. Without prejudice to the provisions related to the state of health, age, and sex, all protected persons shall be treated with the same consideration by the party to the conflict in whose power there are, without any adverse distinction based in particular on race, religion, or political opinion. If they're calling you a sovereign citizen, that's a war crime, okay? Because they're taking reprisals against you for your political opinion. That's a war crime. That's Article 27 of the Geneva Convention. When they stop you because you have plates on your vehicle that are not state plates, they're persecuting you for your political opinion. I've got Republic of Texas plates on my vehicle, and so I put the Republic of Texas plates on it for a very specific reason, because I can accuse them of taking reprisals against me for my political opinion, because they like to pick on people with the Republic of Texas. You see what I'm saying? And so when they drag you into their kangaroo court, they're subjecting you to their satanic religious ceremony, because that's exactly what it is. Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. Why do you think those millions of people that left England to come to America to live in the wilds, many of them died in the process, why do you think they were so anxious to leave England? This is why. Because of this kind of crap that was going on in England.
Boat trip alone, you know.
No joke.
Yeah.
Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. You read that Tomlin's Law Dictionary, anybody that gets my dictionaries, there's Tomlin's Law Dictionary, you read in there some of those definitions about these ecclesiastical courts that were basically, if you were stuck dealing with these Satanists. For when they were driven out of all their former holes, they devised a new method of conveyance by which the lands were granted, not to themselves directly, but to nominal fiapees to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use, and receiving the actual profits, while the season of the land remained in the nominal fiapee, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy, that's the Roman cult, to be bound in conscience to account to assistiki use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. That's extortion. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. And that's Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, volume 2, under the definition of mortmain. I mean, you start reading that thing and start reading some of those things that were going on in England, I mean, that's why those people were leaving by the droves to get away from that place. And that's why they were so adamant when they came here that there was, yes, we're going to have Christian government, but it wasn't going to be associated with one particular church.
I overheard a judge say in a sidebar conversation to an attorney, "You're in dead waters."
Well, that's it, right? Dead waters. It's admiralty, and he's dealing with dead things.
Everything in court is dead.
Yeah.
Isn't that why they make you stand up, right? To kind of bring you back to life?
I don't stand up.
No,
No, I'm saying, but that's why
That's
they
not-
make you stand up. Bring you
that's
back
not-
to life so they
no,
can take
that's-
money from you.
That's not to bring you back to life.
And then sit you back down and put you
It's
back to
actually to
death.
accept their jurisdiction, their authority.
Okay.
That's why they have you stand.
If they wanted me to stand, if I was like in there and there's a table, I just put my feet up on the table is probably what I do. You want me to stand? And I put my feet up on the table. Why would I want to do that? Anyways, my blog is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo.com. My YouTube profile, Sovereign Living. My Facebook community page, I deleted it due to censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group on Facebook is, I'm not deleting it anymore. I'm basically just letting it go and do whatever it wants. I hardly ever go there. And the reason is because I'm just not interested in, Facebook is just collecting information. So, and Jim Willey yesterday talked about how when you quit going there, that they got no more information to collect. Yes.
The U.S. District Court last week, Thursday, that was the day the media was outside when the judge who was being charged and was indicted later. I went to that court for a different reason, and they asked for an ID. And so they started to swarm me because I had an authentication with 2 witnesses. And I said, get someone to escort me because they were giving me time wasting and the court was closing soon. So guy comes out of the office. A marshal goes get another guy. He said, you've been here before. I said, you recognize me? He says, no. He says, do you have anything with the photo? I said, I sure do. So I go to the cubicle, get my cell phone, and here's a photo. He said, no, do you have like a Facebook profile with your name and a picture? We'll take that.
Yeah, no doubt.
We'll take your Facebook profile.
See, and that's a
get
war
federal
crime.
reward. Isn't that something?
That's a war crime. I filed a criminal complaint against the U.S. Marshal for the Eastern District of Texas because they wouldn't let me go into their court without giving them a government-issued ID. And they wouldn't let me file a habeas corpus for someone else. And anybody can file a habeas corpus. And so I filed a criminal complaint, and I haven't been back to that court since then, but I'll bet you it's changed. But again, you got to file a criminal complaint, and what I would do is send it to the provost marshal or the U.S. attorney and complain. You know, the Nazis in the Second World War, when they were having the war crimes tribunals, they said nobody complained. And so if you complain, yes.
They escorted, they had a marshal escort me, and he hung around, and then he escorted me down, and on the walk downstairs from the clerk's office, he said, if you can get any official looking document and copy your photo on it, we'll take that.
Yeah, there you go. So NSEA ID
We'll
would
figure
probably
it out.
work.
We'll take care of it. Just come back
Or
tomorrow.
Catman's ID.
Mhm.
I'll bet you that'd work. Anyways, Catman's ID, he told me that the Homeland Security said it was innovative. Said it was innovative, you know, so for what that's worth. Anyways, so my Yahoo private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. My Google private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. Follow me on Twitter at Engineer Win. Follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International. And BitChute, I've got a profile there, but I don't have all my videos. They have a problem with large files, uploading them, and so I don't have all my videos there. This is the same thing with, there's other YouTube or other places that I upload some of my videos, but I don't upload them all because they don't allow large videos. Mines, they won't allow anything more than 500 megs on mine.
There's a new thing coming up now, gab.com, that's supposed to be substitute to Facebook. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The Brighteon, which is
Yeah, natural news.
Natural News. Yeah.
My
I have a profile there, but I don't have enough views on it to justify. I've got some of my videos there, and they don't have a limit on the file size. they do have a limit. You got to have a certain number of views before they'll allow you to upload, more than 100 videos, and I've got well over 100.
The name is Bright Eon?
Yeah, right, Eon. Used to be
How do you
Real
spell
Video. It's Mike Adams. He's a really good guy. We're trying to get him to come to one of our Republic of Texas meetings and speak. And he lives in Austin, so we'll see. Anyways, Article 8 of the Geneva Convention: protected persons may in no circumstances renounce in part or entirety the rights secured to them by the present convention. In other words, they can't get you into a contract to give up any of these rights. So when you start bringing up war crimes, then that creates a problem, okay? Coercing information. You want what from me? You're coercing information. I don't choose to give it to you. It's none of your business. It's like Tryout said. When they ask for her name, she says, that's private. I don't give that up. And she always seems to get by. She's going to talk to you tomorrow and Monday, and she's pretty interesting, I'll
I've
tell
heard
you.
that before.
But
saying
she
that.
says that's private. And
Yeah.
and so again, if you go into court, you say these guys are coercing information from me, and it's none of your business. You see what I'm saying?
I've
You
said
want
that.
my name? That's coercing information. It's none of your business.
The judge says it is our business, I bet.
Well, and
It
so
is-
did you
it
tell
is
him?
in this.
Did
It
you
is.
tell him he's involved in war crimes?
I remember.
I did, and I
about
continue to
my,
tell them it's none of your
my
business.
separate value.
It's none of your business, none of your business, none of your business.
372
There you go.
805.
Good. Okay.
8051.
So moving on. Article 29. The party to the conflict in whose hands protected persons may be is responsible for the treatment accorded to them by its agents, irrespective of any individual responsibility which may be incurred. And so they're going to try and get their pig off the hook, but they still are responsible. And that's why I have this right here, because this is taken from, this is taken from federal codes and the fines. These are actually fines that are in federal codes that they can fine you for certain violations. And so that sounds like a good place to start for damages. You see what I'm saying? And so these I can send you in an email, or you have a hard copy here if you want. It's up to you.
There's the immunity piece at the bottom of that.
What?
About immunity,
Where?
at the bottom paragraph.
Oh, dealing with claims of immunity. Oh, yeah, right. And again, if you've taken away their good faith, then you're going to have a much better success. But even if they are claiming immunity, it's a war crime for them not to grant you a remedy. Okay, they might be able to get their pig off the hook, but they still got to pay.
That says immunity is invalid.
Well, they're still going to claim. Remember, I showed you under Title 18 that they can claim good faith. You see what I'm saying? And so, even if they get their pig off the hook, then they still got to pay. The corporation has to pay. Somebody's got to pay. You see what I'm saying? Anyways, terrorism is a system of government that seeks to rule by intimidation. So that's all these military uniforms are meant to be intimidating. So by definition, they're terrorizing you. Okay, that's by definition, automatically, and that's a war crime. Can you spot the terrorists? Terrorism is a noun, a system of use of violence and intimidation in pursuit of political aims. Americans killed in 2015 by cannabis, 0. That's why they wanted it illegal, because it's not killing anybody. Ebola, 1. Snake bites, 2. ISIS, 3. Playing football, 12. Cow attack. Cow attack, can you believe it? Cow attack, 20. Bee sting, 100. Police, 1,100. Big pharma, over 100,000. So they're just trying to kill off as many people as they can.
220 a day.
Yeah, no joke.
Is that cow attack or bull?
I don't know. It says cow attack. Small penis, lack confidence, bullied at school. Then why not join the police? You'll get to use phrases such as, I am the law, respect my authority, tell it to the judge. Knowledge of the law is not needed and actively discouraged. Training includes practical steps on how to manufacture consent to statutory rules, intimidation techniques, and legalese speak. Below average intelligence and absolute obedience to authority is mandatory. Matter of fact, there's court cases where they screen them out for low intelligence. They don't want anybody that scores too high on their test to get a job there. And there's people I know that have been denied. They tried to get jobs and were denied. I got to use the restroom. I'll be right back, so we'll just pause everything.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it last night. What you did might have been better than what I did. Well, who knows? Maybe what I did was better than what you did, and we'll never know. Because if we leave here, then we'll never, you know what I mean?
We have a groups on WhatsApp. That's where everybody is there. So
Okay.
we'll just-
Okay. Oh, you paid for it?
I don't know how to pause it.
Okay.
Does anybody know how to pause that?
Yeah, hit the pause button right on the screen.
No, he'll take care of that. He cuts that out afterwards. Just leave it alone. He cuts it out afterwards.
Yes.
That's crazy that they don't want to take that.
And it's 47 colon,
Well, because not all of them are bad.
1A,
Well, he was
Yeah,
just trying to
right.
get the information. He
And
didn't
it's
realize
called-
it's-
Well, but he worked with her and told her another way to
open
get it.
public records
Get what?
act.
Um,
So what you would do is you would like, this
Instead of
is a
giving
public
them the
records
ID.
request.
Basically.
Right.
Open public records request under
what
New
they usually
Jersey
do
State
next time, just come up
and
with
the
something
code of business for you.
So, alright, so it's NJ, SA
he was trying to.
47
Colon,
colon
1A-1.
18-1.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just gonna write a letter.
You need that?
What was that you were?
That's the, it's the New Jersey Open Public Records Act. That's for public record or equivalent of a FOIA. A FOIA is for federal.
Well, they have to
So
donate that
it's
to
New
New York.
Jersey Open Public Records Act.
That's a link?
Well,
It's
earlier
just a
he was
code.
asking about what the code was.
Oh.
And it's just it's NJSA, which I guess is New Jersey Statutes Annotated, 47 colon 1A dash 1. So that would be how you would write it.
So you-
This is a New Jersey Open Public Records Act request under the NJSA 47 colon 1A.
Okay, and just write it as like a letter like that, right?
Yep.
Because like I know I've seen forms online, but not for
I
nothing for
would
New
never
Jersey.
use their forms, and when I
Okay.
do my public records request, I always do it by hand.
Okay,
Because I'm
alright.
a living woman.
Because I was gonna send them this before I left to come here, but I didn't know if I needed. I didn't know if I needed. I was gonna write that up real nice and send it to
I
them.
would put provide me
Okay.
the documentation. Well, good luck with that. I'm not gonna answer that. I'm not gonna answer that.
Okay, so what you do is you build a case against them, right? You get the police report, you get copies of any videos, you get any notes. It's amazing what kind of evidence they'll give you against them. All of the statutory citations are provided in Catman material, so we're going to go through some of this stuff. Catman has done a huge amount of research, and I highly recommend everybody in Texas at least should get his material. Once you have his material, then you'll have ideas on what to look for in other states. If you're looking for something, in your other state. This is a public records request that I did in Colleyville. This was on the 19th of March, 2019. And I described the requested document. So I actually downloaded their form and then I emailed it to them. So then I automatically had emails going back and forth. And so that's amazing. They're actually quite helpful. And all reports, all videos, all offense reports, all incident reports, all narratives, all call logs, all arrest reports, all photos, all bonds, all oaths of office for all officers involved, and all criminal complaints. And so this is, they assaulted me in the middle of the night, and this is their case number. And I requested they be emailed, and if there's going to be a cost, there was no cost because they emailed it. So you basically ask for everything you can think of, right? And that's why all reports, all videos, all offense reports, all incident reports, You know, if you don't, you know, they're playing stupid. So if you don't specifically ask for something, you won't get it. And they like to play stupid. Anyways, check out my other videos: Banks Are Thieves playlist, Roman Cult playlist, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1 through 4, Do-It-Yourself How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service in the Draft, Martial Laws Here, Do-It-Yourself No Income Tax, Do-It-Yourself Free Mail, Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo Courts 1 through 15, Canada Border Pigs playlist, Bar Members and their Satanic Connections playlist. This is Article 71. No sentence shall be pronounced by the competent courts except after a regular trial. There's no such thing as a regular trial. Okay? They're all bought and paid for clerks. It's a fundamental right of a party to have a neutral and detached judge preside over judicial proceedings. Well, if he's a bought and paid for a clerk, he's not neutral or unbiased. Warning, this is the standing army you're told not to tolerate. Order followers, the servants of evil, you assist an evil system most effectively by obeying its orders and decrees. An evil system never deserves such allegiance. Allegiance to it means partaking of the evil. A good person will resist an evil system with his or her whole soul. And well said, Mahatma Gandhi. Order followers are the one that keep the system of slavery in place, and that's Mark Passio. War is when your government tells you who the enemy is. Revolution's when you figure it out for yourself. When liberty and freedom are at stake, your silence isn't golden, it's yellow. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We're the ones we've been waiting for. We're the change that we seek. And this is the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Sheriff Richard Mack's organization, that's one of his books that was there. And this is actually Sheriff Sam Page in North Carolina. I've learned more on constitutional law in one day here at this convention than I have in my 15 years as a sheriff. So again, there's
They don't teach about the Constitution.
well, no, they don't. And and this is coming. This will be coming. This will be coming from their peers. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's why it's so perfect. And Richard Mack is a really good guy, and this Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association are excellent people. These Roman cult Satanists are bending over backwards to make you think you have constitutional rights. It's extremely important to them because that people do not figure out this, because the last time they were doing war crimes that precipitated a revolution. If you challenge jurisdiction, the so-called judge is required to compel the prosecutor to prove jurisdiction or dismiss the case. If they do anything else, it's a denial of due process, which is a war crime. It's all war crimes. They're cowards. They are real brave when there's 20 or 30 of them, but when it's just you and them, they're cowards. They sneak around and fabricate evidence that you're the enemy and a subject, their slave, and they'll never confront you with without lots of their buddies to back them up. You are the enemy, and the sooner you figure that out, the better. You are a subject and their slave, and the sooner you figure that out, the better. Samuel Adams, actually that's not Samuel Adams, it's Patrick Henry, coined the phrase, give me liberty or give me death, after witnessing a man flogged to death for refusing to take a license. They're assaulting people with their Roman cult Sestake Trust, and this is from this is Chisholm versus Georgia, which is like 1796 or something like that. So it's right after the War of Independence. It says, in doing this I shall have occasion incidentally to evince how true it is that states and governments were made for man, and at the same time how true it is that his creatures and his servants first deceived, next vilified, and at last oppressed their master and maker. A state like a merchant makes a contract, a dishonest state like a dishonest merchant willfully refuses to discharge it. And that is so true, and that's happening today. Government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. The communists in the Southern Poverty Law Center are responsible for these war crimes. They're persecuting you for your political beliefs. They're taking reprisals against you because you don't want to be their slave. They're pillaging your property. They're not respecting your religious beliefs. They're terrorizing you. They're threatening you. They're coercing information from you and from third parties, and they're engaging in genocide against state citizens.
They've had some pushback recently.
Yeah, I'll bet they have, and it's going to get more. Remember, it's warfare. You have to treat it like it's warfare because that is exactly what it is. Don't wait for them to attack you, attack them first. The number one rule of warfare is the best defense is a good offense. Make an affidavit of corporate denial. Serve them with a notice of demand that's designed to take away their presumptions. If you do this effectively, it will put them in a very difficult position. If you do this well, you may be able to get them fired or worse. Make an affidavit of criminal complaint and serve it on the U.S. Attorney. This is the police report that the Colleyville pigs did on me when they assaulted me. Notice the name, it's all block capital letters, and display expired registration, failed to maintain financial responsibility. Well, they just make it all up, you know what I mean? I said, basically, do you have a court order? Was there a breach of the peace? And so then they arrested me. And so this is more of their police report. This is offense report. And this is a Class C warrant arrest. Well, there's no such thing as a Class C warrant. Okay? Matter of fact, their codes specifically say that they may not issue a warrant for a Class C misdemeanor. And so there's evidence right there that they committed false arrest, assault, kidnapping, false imprisonment. And
That's
this
going
is
on right now?
Huh?
That's going on right now?
Oh, yeah.
March 9th?
Yeah, that was, yeah. I already filed one criminal complaint against them, and I'm gonna file another one, and, so anyways, this is Texas Transportation Code failure to pay civil penalty, right? If the owner of a motor vehicle fails to timely pay the amount of the civil penalty imposed against the owner, an arrest warrant may not be issued for the owner. And so they can't issue a warrant, and yet they said there's a warrant. And then this is Texas Penal Code, bail jumping. An offense under this section is a Class C misdemeanor if the offense for which the actor's appearance is required is punishable by a fine only. Conviction of a Class C misdemeanor does not impose any legal disability or disadvantage. An individual adjudged guilty of a Class C misdemeanor shall be punished by a fine only not to exceed $500. And so again, it's not a crime, okay? And there's this is all found in, this is Catman's research too, I gotta tell you. But and this is the Colleyville pigs turned on as emergency lights to initiate a traffic stop, right? This is his narrative that he put together, and so it was basically a 2-page narrative, and that's their extortion, okay? The warrant for the no insurance and warrant, those are both Class C misdemeanors, and so there's no such thing as a warrant. Okay, so that's actually official oppression, is what it is. And I'm not sure if I cover that in here, but that's what it is. A crime, this is under the Texas Government Code. A crime means a misdemeanor punishable by confinement or a felony. Okay, so then there's no crime. It's not a crime. And a defendant means a person accused of a crime, and yet in their paperwork they're calling me a defendant, or they're strawman a defendant. You see what I'm saying? And so a municipal court, including a municipal court of record, shall exclusive original jurisdiction within the territories of the municipality in all criminal cases. Well, that's not a criminal case. And so they don't have jurisdiction, and a defendant is a crime, is a jail or felony. Okay, so again, there's no crime. And a municipal court and a municipal court of record shall have exclusive original jurisdiction in all criminal cases. This is actually Texas Government Code that says similar things. And so, again, it's all criminal cases. A county attorney shall represent in all cases, and that's Article 5 of the Texas Constitution. And they never have a county attorney there. It's always, and it's the state of Texas too. So that's impersonating a public servant. A person commits an offense if he impersonates a public servant with intent to induce another to submit to his pretended official authority or to rely on his pretended official acts, or knowingly purports to exercise any function of a public servant or a public office, including that of a judge in court. And the position or office through which he purports to exercise a function of a public servant or public office has no lawful existence under the constitutional laws of the state or the United States. Well, damn. Under the Lieber Code, he's a military commissioner, so therefore that falls right into that. You see what I'm saying? and an offense under this section is a felony of the 3rd degree. So it's impersonating a public servant. A municipal court, including a municipal court of record, shall have exclusive jurisdiction within the municipality's territorial. Oh, that's actually, I already showed this.
Could you define court of record there, please?
Well, they have the municipal courts of record. That a court of record is there. It's actually a fake common law court, okay? Because there's no such thing as a common law court, but they do keep a record. Okay,
So you're
it's
saying if
they have court recorders.
is a court of record if they have if they're recording it audibly?
Yeah, well, there's actually should be a court reporter in there. Court of record should have a court reporter that's taking a transcript, right?
Massachusetts, most have gone audio, there's no more transcriber.
Right.
And they want $50, $50, $50.50, or whatever they call that, for each 90 minutes, or $10 a day per hearing.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a big money scam for sure.
Oh, yeah,
For
big
sure.
sham.
Big money scam.
Easy money too.
Yeah.
Don't have to do
So
anything.
this is a friend of mine that had a proceeding in the Bedford Municipal Court. So notice it says State of Texas versus and defendant's signature at the bottom, right? So they're automatically it's prejudged, okay? Prejudged that it's a criminal matter when there's no such thing as a crime for a Class C misdemeanor. And the state of Texas, the city doesn't have authority to represent the state. And so this is
Which state though?
well, no joke.
Look at the top.
Yeah,
State of Texas.
it's all block capital
It's
letters.
not Texas.
A county attorney will represent the state in all cases. It's all it says is the state. So what we did is I was helping him, so we made this up. And so then we put State of Texas Inc., plaintiff in error, John Henry, House of Smith, respondent in error. I hereby agree to make a special appearance on the 23rd of April at 10 a.m. He actually lived in Bedford, and they knew where he was physically. And he's a caregiver for his 80-year-old mother, so he didn't want to have any problems with, getting arrested or something. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so he was prepared to go in and answer these, so-called charges.
What was the outcome?
It's still in works, They set it down for a show trial. He's demanded a trial without government employees. I don't know, the trial is going to be later this month, if I remember right, the show trial. So we'll see what happens.
April Fool's
But
Day.
the interesting thing is that he knows the judge, okay? The judge used to work for him. This guy's been around in this town forever. Wow. And so the judge, his dad used to hobnob around with the mayor. And so he knows the judge, and the judge used to actually work for him. He used to have, this guy that is a friend of mine, he used to have he's in the cell phone business. He used to have a chain of stores. He used to have 30 stores in the DFW area. He used to have stores in California and New York and in Florida. And he would have all these stores back when they had pagers and stuff like that, right? And when cell phones were first coming out. He was right on the leading edge of that stuff.
That's another scam too. I used to work for one of those kind of companies. They had a ton of money.
Well, that's what he made a lot of money. Anyways, what happened is he had to shut all the stores down because there's just no money in it anymore. And but he knows this. He said this judge used to work for him back when he was, in his 20s and 30s. You know what I mean? And so he knows the guy.
I have a quick question here. Where it says John Henry, House of Smith, wouldn't his house be Henry? Or no?
No, John Henry is
Smith
your
is-
given names. You have your given names and your family name.
Smith is the
Family name.
surname.
Right. So,
Family.
the only name I know is Ciano. Me, I don't know.
That's the family name.
Right.
That's your family.
But you have a first name and maybe you have a middle name. Most
Also,
people
John
have-
Henry's his
Henry's
middle
the
name.
middle
Right.
name, yeah.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay.
So
Right over top there, huh?
So what we did is we wrote this thing out, and they file stamped it and everything. So they accepted it, and
As is.
yeah, just like that. Well, that's a fictitious name that we made up. We didn't put his name on there,
Right.
but this is how we did it. You see what I'm saying? And if you want to appear, that's the way I would do it. But I like what Trial does too. She's got some really interesting techniques that you can use that she'll talk about. A war crime. This is Texas Court of Criminal Procedure. A crime means a misdemeanor or punishable by jail or a felony. A defendant means a person accused of a crime. And a municipal court only has jurisdiction over criminal cases. So they don't have jurisdiction if it's not criminal. Class C misdemeanor is not criminal. It's actually what it is, it's civil. And remember, that's where the probable cause comes into play, because they don't have probable cause. So that's where I'm going to go with it when I file that lawsuit, is they didn't have probable cause to stop me. They didn't have authority to issue a warrant, and it's official oppression is what it is.
How about when they say probable cause, exigent circumstances?
No,
Immediate
no.
harm, danger,
There's statutes. I don't care about these whatever, okay?
Right.
The moon's made of cheese, okay?
There's certain things that they need for exigent circumstances anyway. I mean, they can't just bum rush in, you know? I don't know if it's different in every state, but...
This is the ticket, and I rejected their offer of contract. See here, it says your offer of contract is rejected pursuant to Regulation Z, Truth in Lending. And I signed it without prejudice, all rights reserved, and there it is there. You can read it. But notice the state of Texas. And then they sent me a threatening letter through the mail, and I filed this. I attached it to a criminal complaint, and it says here, if you're not present on the date and time specified, see, they had to get me in the contract. I rejected their offer of contract, right?
But it's not you.
So they had to recontract me.
It's not you. Look at the top.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I know.
Now, when you wrote down the ticket, where did you send it? You gave it to the clerk?
Well, what I did, huh?
You gave it to the clerk at the court, or the ticket itself when you wrote your refused contract on?
I gave it to the police. I served it on actually their records.
Yeah, that's
Person.
what I mean. Okay.
I served it. That's the only place that's available to the public. Otherwise, they don't let you go back there. So I just served it on the records, and I had this friend of mine that's in Bedford. He went in there with me, so he was my witness, and I just gave it to him. Oh, I did the records request first, and then after we were done with that, I said, here, by the way, you can have this. You're served. And then I turned around and left, and I had to witness it. But they sent this. They had to recontract me, okay? And so this is what they sent this letter, and it says if you're not present, it's a threatening letter too. Failure to appear charge and warrant will be issued for your arrest, and so that's a threat, and it's a Class C misdemeanor, so it's a civil matter. And so that's official oppression, too. That's evidence of official oppression. Anyways, this is Title 18, United States Code, Section 876, mailing threatening communications. Whoever with intent to extort from any person any money or other thing of value so deposits or causes to be delivered as aforesaid any communication containing any threat to kidnap any person or any threat to injure the person of the addressee or of another. And then that's paragraph B, whoever knowingly so deposits or cause to be delivered as aforesaid any communication with or without the name or designing mark subscribed thereto addressed to any other person containing any threat to kidnap any person or any threat to injure the person of the addressee. So that's a felony. In several circumstances under Title 18 United States Code 876, mailing threatening communications. And what I did was I sent it back with an older version of that, and I just attached the envelope and everything they sent me and this on the cover, and I put it in a separate envelope, and I mailed it back with 3-cent stamps. Those are 3-cent stamps, and it gets there no problem. And so I use 6 cents. That's what these. I do this all the time, and so. Here's 3-cent stamps. You can get them at the post office by the sheet, and you just tell them I want some 3-cent stamps, and I usually get 2 or 3 sheets when I get them. Huh?
Let's say Section 1751.
1701.
1701.
Yeah.
Where?
U.S.
18 U.S. Code. Section 1701. instruction.
1726 actually.
Do you have a stamp made, Glenn?
No, I just print it like that.
Okay.
I have it set up in my printer.
Oh, the blue one?
It's a Word file.
No. Well, the slide before this, I wanted to know what that was. That the same code as?
That one? That's on here.
876,
That's on there.
1341, 1342.
Oh,
That's a mispersonation.
That's the same thing as the red notice that I talked about, that I sent you, to some of you guys.
So this works good. The 3-cent stamps works great.
I like the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so you can. There's actually. I don't know. Is Ted going to be calling in or anything? You were talking about doing that.
I have not checked with him, but after what I was discussing with him for fun, he sent me on the same day 3 different items. One is a 1-cent stamped postcard, a 2-cent letter, and a 3-cent, probably under 13 ounces.
Oh, is that right?
And they were all delivered, and I have them. I didn't know whether we, at what point so I can bring them over and show them.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing them.
Because the two local post offices have rejected our mail based on these prices.
Well, what you do is get the name of the postmaster
We did,
and file a criminal complaint. Send it to
Yeah.
the U.S. attorney.
we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you it'll change.
I understand, this all just happened last week.
It's obstruction of the mail. Sure, it takes time. I understand.
I have one actually, because they guys asked me to bring some stuff, so like to a 2-cent stamp and on it that I mailed. This one was just a sample that I mailed to myself, but I send stuff to you all the time with a 2-cent using Ted's system.
Right.
But when you got to go to the post office and drop it in there, or in a blue box.
Yeah, one of the blue boxes.
When
Don't give
you-
it to the counter.
Right, the counter, they were like, the lady was like, oh, she freaked out.
Yeah.
Like, because I bought the stamps and stuck them on there and we're just going to give them to her.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, I can't take this like this. And I was like, okay, no problem. And on the way out, I dropped it in the slot and it got where it needed to go.
That's right.
But
the counter-
actually, and one second, I'm sorry. And
Somebody said
I
they used
tested
that
putting it in
package
my
or
mailbox
envelope.
and my lady took it. And I've done it multiple times now
Huh?
and she takes it
He
every
uses
time.
his.
Right.
So I don't know
Right.
if she's just a
If
very
they
experienced.
She might not
even notice, I don't know if
She said he hasn't been using
The
postage
count,
for
the
2
count,
years.
the count, the counter
No
is
postage?
USPS.
This is what he uses.
Yeah.
for
Oh, yeah,
packages
sure.
and letters.
Yeah, you can do that.
That's what they are, USPS.
Yeah.
You can't access it through there. So you just drop it in the box. The mailman is probably part of both.
And this one was the one I was telling you guys about yesterday, where somebody from Tom's River with a zip code mailed to me, non-domestic, without a zip code, and this was the yellow sticker that they put back, that it was international letters and postcards, because they put a regular stamp on it, and they sent them back that with international prices, that they didn't pay enough money.
Yeah, that's great.
That's right.
Can I make a copy of that?
If you go ahead.
I'd like to.
Just black their
well,
name out for them, that's all.
Sure. Yeah. My printer that I use as a scanner is downstairs. So,
No worries.
So if I can get that from you and then
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
later,
Picture of the
that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
it's awesome. Right?
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt.
it proves exactly what's going on.
Right.
There.
There's parallel systems going on.
Right.
And if you do it right,
And they know it.
Yeah.
They know
Right,
it.
and they knew, right?
That's
They
right.
knew it.
They haven't
That's
somehow
right.
gotten the memo yet. based on-
Okay,
You guys
so
don't see it.
all statutes, all codes, all regulations, all constitutions, all constitutional amendments, all rules, all court rules, all fees are edicts under martial law. And there's another Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. A sheriff can and should interpose for his citizens against an overreaching federal, state, or local government. And Sheriff Brad Rogers. So there are good sheriffs out there, and we need to find out who they are and if and educate them if necessary, and get them to intervene on our behalf. There's a sheriff that we're working with that what we're trying to do, we want to get it to the point that we can, if the city cops stop us, that we can just call up the sheriff and say, call 911 or call up the sheriff and say, yeah, we need a sheriff here. We got some pirates and we need some help.
Nice.
And get the sheriff to come, because you're in the county, even though you're in a city, and get the sheriff to come. And so this particular sheriff that we're working with, this friend of mine, actually helped in his election, and the sheriff has asked him to help again in his election, and so the election's going to come up, start pretty soon, and he's gonna be there to help him and get to know him, and so we can give him some of Sheriff Richard Mack's stuff, and because he already talked to him, and he said, will you protect me? I'm not a U.S. citizen. Will you protect me? And he says, of course. He says, I have to protect everybody. And he says, well, I'm a citizen of the Republic of Texas. Will you still protect me? And he says, of course.
I love that move. Call the sheriff on the cops. That is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait for that.
Exactly. So again, we got to educate them. You see what I'm saying?
That New York City,
and
see how that goes over.
so that's what we got to do. Okay, so it's not hopeless, is what I'm saying.
I did an Oprah request for the public oath of the chief of police, any public police officer, and the mayor. The only one that has a public oath is the mayor.
Yeah.
There's no public oath for the chief of police
Where's that?
in Ocean City, New Jersey.
Right. So I file a criminal complaint. He's impersonating a public servant. I just start filing criminal complaints against him, and you never know. It's like throwing mud against a wall. You never know what's going to stick. See what I'm saying? And I'm thinking about the next time I come, I'm thinking about serving them with one of my notice and demands. I'll bet you things will start changing when you do that stuff, because they don't want people figuring out that it's martial law. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So whether you do it or not, I might do it before the next one. We'll see.
How'd you find that out? Did you just look on their website and see if there was an oath? Or?
No, I'll repeat.
Records.
Open Public Records Act. I went into the city clerk, and they have a form. And it's important to, in New Jersey, on the back, there's a box to check that if they refuse to supply the information, that this is under a common law right.
Okay.
I have copies of it if you want to see it, but I actually asked for, I even asked for a public oath for the court of the city clerk as well, and the judge, and the prosecutor. None of them have oaths.
But, yeah, if I could see that,
They
it'd be very...
refuse to supply them because they don't exist.
I think they have them. They're just hiding them.
Well, and that's another thing, is that I went to the police, and I was able to. I'll show you here after we're done. I can show you the emails, because they sent me emails. And so let's keep moving here, and then I'll show you what. Remind me to show you what I got from the police, because they actually they gave me a lot of information. They actually give you a lot of information if you. But this is with the police under the public information's request. It wasn't with the city clerk. It was with the police. Anyways, oh, that's the end. Okay, good.
Hey.
So
I was thinking the police really aren't that smart, right?
So
So,
let's-
they're going to make mistakes when you ask them questions and stuff. If
Well,
they're not smart enough to know.
Especially if you do it low key.
Right.
You get
You
into
don't want to
belligerent in their
raise
face.
red flags. Then they'll go into their shell.
Right. Use subtle words.
here's one from. I had asked for their. Says here. I had asked for the oath of office for the under the city's charter. No bond is required unless city council determines that a bond should be required. I'd ask for their bonds. The city council has the discretion to require bonds of the city officials, employees, and department directors. To my knowledge, neither the chief of police nor any police officers are required to be bonded. The Texas Government Code sections, because I said, where's the bonds pursuant to these government code sections? And so he's answering it. That's perfect. See what I'm saying? Are only applicable if a bond is required by law. It is not. The city does not maintain law licenses. I asked for the law licenses for the judge and the prosecutor. Information regarding law licenses is maintained by the State Bar of Texas, and I guarantee you they don't have a license.
There's no license.
It's not a
Bar
license.
card.
That's right. The requester can visit Texas Bar to search for licensing information on Texas attorneys. The prosecutor is Kelly Brady, and the judge is J. Stuart Bass. The requester will need to enter first and last name of the attorney, and the information should come up. And then he also sent me, this is the EIN number for the city. Okay? This is their tax identification number.
There you go.
And he sent me, this is the oath of office for the judge, which I need to look into that because it's, that's fairly recent. That's the judge's oath of office, but the prosecutor's oath of office isn't here. And so I'm wondering about that, but I guess he's saying that that would be, or might be with the, anyways, so that's one of the things he sent me. And this is Ron Alexander, so let's go down here, because there's probably more. I know there's more. Here's another one. Okay, see, please attachments in the open records request. Come on, there we go. So I submitted their open records request, and here is where I asked for all of this stuff, right? And this is also, I gave them the rejected offer of contract. Your offer of contract is rejected pursuant to Regulation Z. And it says, and then this is from their, okay, this is basically a letter. We received a public information request dated in order to promote governmental efficiency and encourage the prompt release of information as required. We've relied on this other letter to respond to your request. We do so within 5 business days. The police department's made a good faith determination that the information request, because I wanted their body cam, okay, videos, deals with the detection, investigation, and prosecution of crime. So they're accusing me of a crime, and the release of records would interfere with the detection, investigation, and prosecution of an open or pending criminal matter. So they're saying it's a criminal matter. It's not. It's a Class C misdemeanor. It's not a criminal matter. So anyways, they're giving me evidence. You see what I'm saying? And so, but this is the call detail report that I asked for. And this is the oath of office for the pig. And it's quite old, it's 2000. Okay, so he's been there for quite a while. And so I'm wondering, I got to look into it as to whether that expires and whether they have to renew it from time to time. And, sorry?
Yeah, if there's a renewal.
Exactly. And this is one of the other cops. See, there's actually there's 4 cops, so I got all of their names now.
Wasn't that one there, the Alexander, the guy you're communicating with? Right there.
Ron Alexander?
It was down more. Keep going.
Brian Scott Brown,
That one right there.
Alexander
Oh, it's
Gregory
Alexander.
James.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's
help me
Alexander.
God is not part of the oath in the U.S. Constitution. That's the fraud by George Washington. You might want to check the statutes or codes in your state to see what the true oath is.
Yeah, they
Well,
use-
that's I think in the statutes. Of course, they're all edicts under martial law, so none of them have any authority. It's for the government employees. You see what I'm saying?
Question on war crimes. How does one prosecute a war crime when it's under a Geneva Convention as opposed to the statutes of the state or federal? Like you say, it's a war crime, it's a war crime, it's a war crime.
Right.
But it's a war crime under statute here or under Geneva Convention?
It's under international agreements.
So my question is, assuming that's the case, how does one file a criminal complaint? Just name that, and what do they do with it?
There's federal statutes that give the district court, at least somebody sent it out to my group, and so I have to find it, but there's some federal statute that gives the district court original jurisdiction for all war crimes in foreign countries.
That's key. Okay, great.
And but then, if they fail to resolve the matter, then you go to the UN Human Rights Commission.
Right. So that when they put it in the outline or the circular file, then you have to proceed.
Right, you elevate it. And if the district court has original jurisdiction, then you go through the appeals up to the Supreme Court, and then, if necessary, to the UN Human Rights Commission. See what I'm saying?
So federal circuit court in your region. Is that where
Yeah, the district court. Right. Well, the circuit court's the court of appeals. The district court is the local district court. For example,
I think New Jersey only has one.
Probably does. It's a smaller state.
Canada.
Um,
They only have one.
Well, what he's saying is the circuit court, U.S. Circuit Court, is usually for a region.
well,
Not
the
the
circuit
not
courts,
states.
the circuit courts are all appeals courts.
Right.
Right, so district court is in Camden.
District Court of the United
Yeah.
States,
What about
District of
borders
New
and
Jersey.
frontier stuff?
Here it is right here.
Okay, yes,
Here it is right here.
Do you make that email exchange available outside of this?
Sorry?
That email exchange that for the open records request, is that available for viewers outside of today's?
I mean, if you want copies of that stuff, I could send it to you, I suppose. Why?
Thank you. Because that's something I'm working on where I'm at. Getting oaths, FOIA, FOIA requests.
Yeah, well, all you do is you just go, like this is a city, this is a police matter, so I went to the, and I did an open records request. A friend of mine showed me how to do it, it's quite simple. But they usually have a form online, or, you know, you can go down there and there'll be a form there. You see what I'm saying?
Just write your own, you don't really have to use their form.
That's true. That's true.
I just write my
They
own
charge you?
handwriting. No.
Did they charge you?
Well, they said that there's a possibility they'll charge if they have to print a lot of stuff. But if you'll accept it by email, then it's free.
Great.
You see what I'm saying? So email's perfect, because then I got a record of everything that goes on and their cover letter, and plus I can go back and forth and say, well, what about this and what about that, and so it's perfect. You see
And
what I'm
it's
saying?
open.
Quick.
Yeah.
I wrote to the public safety director that oversees the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and I asked him 3 questions, and I said, consider this a public records request if you cannot answer my questions. So I was trying not to wait for him to send me back a letter saying, well, I can't answer that. So I said, and so what they did was, they sent me the entire internal record for the department. It was 219 pages, so I received them, and I thought, well, this is great, but I'm going to have to read all 219 pages just to find the 3 questions, the answers for the 3 questions. But then, 3 days later, I get a bill for $20.
Oh yeah, right.
And you know what I did? I checked the statutes to see how it was worded for the public records request, and then I wrote to them, and I says, you did not afford me an opportunity to decide if I would like it by email, if I would like it by...
Yeah.
They
There you
wrote it
go.
off. They
Yeah.
called me and they wrote it off. So
Yeah.
you just have to know, you have to read the statutes and codes.
This is
Right.
good search. too.
Right.
You
Yep,
use.
so they wrote off $20. I was
Yeah.
like,
Perfect.
so I have,
Yeah.
I have 219 pages now.
Right.
And
Well,
I need to scan, so an easy search, instead of reading it, but.
well, and so that's why I like PDFs way better, anyways, because
Yeah,
you can
well,
search them.
but they
You
didn't
know.
afford me to make the decision. They just
Yeah.
forced it upon me and
Yeah,
they sent me
exactly.
a bill.
That's not right,
Oh,
especially if their statute says they have to. So, anyways,
They should have given you notice, hey, that's gonna cost $20.
That's right.
Right.
Do you still want it, right?
Yep.
well, and that's what when I do these public information requests, that's why I give them an email address. I tell them you can send it to me by email, and I want to be notified if there's a cost, and I'll decide what to do from there. And like Colleyville made my the cam of my arrest available. It was on a DVD, and it was $5.
Yeah.
So that's no problem.
That was
You know what I
another
mean?
option, yeah.
Yeah. So I paid the $5 and I got the DVD. You know. So that's no big deal. Okay, so why don't we take a break, and then because we could do jurisdiction, challenge it, and build a case. Either one of those is going to be good,
That sounds good.
and we're probably going to be able to cover both of them.